Welcome to the Sports Shuffle. I am flying Ryan Gokers along with.
Tampa Motor Mouth Joel Verlin is we're both getting ready for Gobble Gobble tomorrow.
Yes, and we are here to not let down the defense. We are very Zach Wilson asking that way. Something we are probably not going to talk about at all.
Yeah, because when you have such a delectable, delicious soundbite as Robert Saleh saying it was dog poop, and he didn't say dog poop, but I don't think we would be able to say that
It
what
has the
he
same
said.
letters as this in a different way.
Yeah, but because that was just the icing on the cake. Because of course, I don't know, was his comments after Zach Wilson's rather blunt response, or was that before Zach Wilson's rather blunt response?
I don't know the order of events on that one. I do know Zach Wilson's not going to be active on Sunday.
Yeah,
I'm
because
thinking about today.
his brilliant response when somebody asked him, "Do you feel you let down the defense?" and he just goes, "No." And just to sort of give you some, he had Jet Sunday, 9 completions, 10 punts, -21 passing yards in the second half. And this is from somebody at CBS. The Jets average 2.77 inches per
Inches
play.
per play in the second half.
Inches per play in the second half. Uh, if you don't follow football at all, that ain't good.
There's a lot of things you can say. Um, about 2.77 inches not being good in the real world, let alone when you measure things by yards. And that's just bad.
Yeah,
I don't know how you do that.
are you ready for from this is also from CBS Sports 4. Zach Wilson ranks this season out of 34 qualified
He's got
quarterbacks.
to be 34th.
Are you ready for this?
He's got to be
Pass
34th.
rating 72.6, rank 33rd.
Ooh.
Completion percentage 55.6%, rank 34th. I don't know how you go 34th out of 33
Well, you have
quarterbacks.
players like Teddy
Oh,
Bridgewater,
true.
Jameis Winston, who have
Back,
had some starts.
Joe,
You have guys like that. The backups
Russell,
that have had enough time. Cooper
Russell,
Rush.
Russell Wilson.
Well, I'm talking like your backups. You got 32
Oh,
teams.
okay.
They have to have a starter. Carson Wentz on that list as well. So, yeah, I don't
Would
know where the
you
qualifications are.
would you qualify Baker Mayfield now as a backup? Cough cough. Yeah. Passing TDs, two
Oh, man.
interceptions, 4 of 5, rank 32nd, and the last one, passing touchdowns per attempt, 2.1%, rank tied for 32nd. Your New York Jets, former starting quarterback, ladies and germs.
Zach Wilson through 20 games has the same stats roughly as Jamarcus Russell, who is one of the
Uh,
biggest busts
uh,
in NFL history. Um,
and
yeah,
then and then you think about the legacy. That's when you're searching for the wrong word, and your brain is going, okay, maybe I need some more caffeine to hit the neurons here. But the legacy of quarterback failure for the Jets is phenomenal.
Zach Wilson makes the butt fumble feel like an everyday occurrence for the Jets. We'll get into more
And
of the
and and
Jets game.
and what's amazing is how strong a start this team had that made you actually believe, maybe they have something this year.
They do have something this year. It's called a defense. And when they had Brees Hall, they had a semblance of an offense that could cover the misfirings and the screw ups of Zach Wilson. Now Brees Hall is gone. Michael Carter and James Robinson cannot combine and get the job done. That defense, I remember when we talked about this game. I think you said the over under was a 38 and a half. I said it's going to be 13-10, and I was overhyped. This was 3-3 until a punt return under 10 seconds left gave the Patriots a win.
I I found I'll save it for when we get to the game, but I found the absolute best recap. It was like the very first part. I'm like, okay, that's all I need to talk about this game. That
All right, let's jump into the quick recaps. This again before Thanksgiving.
Should we do the injuries real quick because
I
we
think
had
we'll try and dump these in as we go with these recaps
okay.
the best we can.
Oh, okay. So we can just
If anything
so,
gets missed, we'll throw that out as well.
so we
Injury
can
news is still coming out right now. I mean, I've literally gotten 3 notifications on injuries in the last 5 minutes, and people
okay.
are getting updated today. So we'll kind of
Yeah,
cover that through as we
yeah.
go.
Let's get to the recap so we can get her done.
All right, so Titans-Packers 27-17 on Thursday night last week. Derrick Henry, very, very good. Christian Watson looks like he could be very, very good, but the Packers are not very, very good. So we already talked about that game, so we'll move on.
Yeah,
Justin Fields and the
belabor that
Bears.
point too much.
Justin Fields and the Bears lose 27-24 to the Falcons. Justin Fields' injury is weird. He has a left shoulder injury, that much we know. But we don't know if it was a dislocation or not because you have reputable sources contradicting each other. You don't know if he's day-to-day or possibly season-ending. So keep an eye on that because we really don't know. He also had the hamstring issues during the game where it looked like he was having a hard time running. So the Bears find ways to lose close games, even to bad teams like the Falcons. The Falcons moved to 5-6, half game behind the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who were on bye last week. The Bears still suck.
Yeah, because from this game, just a couple things that pop out. Definitely the Justin Field injury looms over the Bears. It's Trevor Siemian time, and the one thing that I know I didn't experience this, but I know you were definitely one of the people that experienced this. How about CPAT's kick return of the century that the PPR wasn't counted in numerous fantasy leagues? Fun times.
All right, we're going to get into this now. I was going to wait, but yeah, this league up here, this 5-6, 7th place, the worst standing team, the worst record team. I have Cordero Patterson. I did not get 6 points for the touchdown, lost by 2.5. Am I salty?
Boy.
Yes. Am I bitter? Yes. Am I out of playoff contention? No. I'm actually tied with the 6th seed, who is the cutoff at 5-6. So we have 3 games left. So as long as I win one of the next 2, I'll have a shot in week 14 to beat the person and hopefully win the tiebreaker and get in. But yeah, that's a tough way to lose with 128 plus points in standard, outscoring all but one team by 20 to lose because Cordero Patterson got a touchdown that just doesn't count.
How many fantasy managers do you think emailed the platforms specifically and going, WTF is going on?
It's not the platform, it's your commissioner. It's the settings of the actual league.
Can imagine how many commissioners were.
Oh, my commissioner heard about it. I was like, what? Why? And I was sitting there on Monday night going, I got Debo. Do not get me within 4 or 5 points. Like, if I'm going to lose, let me lose big. Don't let me lose like by 1.5 or 2.5 points, which I did. Yeah, so fantasy football's fun.
I'm kind of surprised that wasn't your final thought.
I have others. That was one of the ones in contention, but I have others. Anyways, we'll move on. Ravens 13-3 over the Panthers. A very windy game, kind of knocked down the offense here a little bit. Start your Ravens defense was our advice, and if you did, you were going to be pretty dang happy about it. So, Baker Mayfield no longer the starter. It will be Sam Darnold starting this week for the Panthers.
Yeah, just Mayfield may fail. Was horrid.
Did fail.
Ravens DST, as you said, just had their way with the Panthers. And when Terrence Marshall Jr. has the most yards, you know the day was bad.
Yeah, Demarcus Robinson, though, 9 catches for about 125 yards. It's a good name to keep in the back of your mind for fantasy reasons. If he does this again next week, maybe he's the Rashad Bateman proper replacement that gets this offense going. We don't expect the wind to be as bad. Again, we had the horrible rain, snow in Buffalo, all of it. And that weather system had some wind with it. So shouldn't be that bad going forward. But the Ravens moved to 7-3, lead the AFC North. And right now, the 3 seed in the AFC. And we go to the team that was most affected by the weather last week. It's the Buffalo Bills and the Cleveland Browns playing in Detroit. The Bills playing 2 consecutive weeks in Detroit due to their Thanksgiving game matchup tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon, depending on your location. Bills win 31-23. Josh Allen had one of his worst fantasy performances of his career, or at least the last couple of years. 197 yards in the air, 1 passing touchdown, and 8 rushing yards. They did not need him. They just ran Devin Singletary down the Browns' throat. Amari Cooper, great game. Donovan Peoples-Jones, great game. Nick Chubb, not so much.
Yeah, as the Browns definitely run game were off their game, a normal, dependable with the juggernauts of Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. Sort of, you're kind of going, what's going on, guys? Yeah, don't move of the week for me. Benching Amari Cooper. Yeah, so major fantasy fail as Amari Cooper. This from Ryan McDowell, R Ryan MC23 on Twitter. Amari Cooper has already set a new career high with 5 WR1 games this season. Only Diggs, Adams, and Cup have had more WR1 games than Amari has had this year. Allen lost a step or two, but still good enough to win at home on the road as more Singletary than Cook Day. But yeah, this just in. Bills are good.
Yeah, the Bills are very good. They are not first place in the division. They are tied with the Dolphins. The Dolphins are the current tiebreaker for their earlier season win over the Bills in Miami. Next up, I made 2 very interesting predictions this week. This one is the one that looks really, really bad in retrospect. Washington 23-10 over the Houston Texans. I thought the Texans are going to show up. I thought there was going to be an emotional letdown for the Commanders. Did not happen. Commanders defensive touchdown early and then just pretty much coasted. It will not be Davis Mills this week for the Texans at quarterback. It's going to be Kyle Allen. If that name sounds familiar, he was at one time a backup quarterback for the Carolina Panthers, did have some starts in the Cam Newton era. So not a complete nobody off the street, but it looks like Davis Mills' time in Houston might be drawing to a close. Of course, Houston's going to have the number 1 overall draft pick, it looks like, and a new quarterback seems to be on the way.
Yeah, as Heineke was bad for fantasy, but good enough to get the win in reality. Texans are just plain awful, worst team in the league, bar none. And Damian Pierce had an off game, so if you were starting him expecting to bank a win on this week based on his performance, you were going, you were scratching your head when you were looking at the fantasy stat tracker.
Yeah, I mean, it's not uncommon for teams to have bad weeks or bad quarterback performances against the Texans because you just can roll over them with your running game. And that being said, that's kind of what happened here.
Texans, Texans were the one that got rolled.
Yeah, Damian Pierce was not a great game, but that's going to happen sometimes when you get in the wrong side of things. So, all of that being said, the Houston Texans pick was not great. One that looked a lot better for a lot of that game until the final few seconds. Eagles beating the Indianapolis Colts 17-16. I took the Colts last week, and it looked very good for a large portion of that game until, of course, Jalen Hurts gets a touchdown very late in that game to put the Eagles up 17-16. They are still first place in the NFC East. The Colts still second place in their division at 4-6-1, but the Titans 3.5 games up with a sweep on the board. So I don't think anybody's catching the Titans in this division. The Colts, Jonathan Taylor did look pretty good in a tough matchup. Got an early touchdown, but a lot of disappointment here for fantasy.
Yeah, as the Eagles' offense looked a little bit stagnant. Jonathan Taylor almost won for the game for the Colts, but Hurts, of course, took matters into his own hands and got the Eagles the lead and the win. And oof, Kenneth Gainwell did not live up to his name as his only carry went for 0 yards. You lose, you get nothing. Good day, sir.
Yeah, I really enjoy. I'm looking at some waiver claims in the Mega Bowl where you have to bid. I really like hitting the perfect bid, by the way. Everybody else bids 5, you bid 6, and you get the player. It just makes my heart sing. Yeah. Anyways, we'll move on to the worst game possibly of the season. Jets Patriots 10-3 win for the Patriots. A punt return touchdown with 6 seconds left. Yeah, that's how it ended. There was nothing really here to talk about. Patriots offense didn't look bad. Nick Folk, though, couldn't hit a kick to save his life. And yeah.
It's sort of I found this on the QB list absolutely perfect in their summary of the game. Due to electrical issues in Gillette Stadium, this game was delayed by 10 minutes. CBS truck had a power outage. The Patriots pregame radio broadcast was also impacted by electricity issues before the game, and it would have just been better off for everyone if the game simply wasn't televised at all. Truer words have never been written.
Yeah. That was an omen of things to come. There was no power before the game for the broadcast, and there was no power for either team on the field.
This is a sign, folks. This game is gonna suck.
Yeah,
It
Zach
did.
Wilson will not be active on Sunday. It will be Mike White with the start, with Joe Flacco as the backup. Patriots and Jets both 6-4, both a game behind
As
the first
Bill
place
Belichick
Dolphins and Bills tied.
Bill Belichick once again beats the Jets.
That's not saying much. The Jets are not that
Yep.
good of a team. If you look at some of the Jets' wins losses, it's a little ridiculous, but they beat the Dolphins without Tua, so I'm not too worried. Anyways, the Saints and the Rams, 27-20 win for the New Orleans Saints. The Rams are bad. Matt Stafford back in the concussion protocol. It looks like it's going to be John Wolford again for the Rams this week. The Saints, Andy Dalton continues his very inconsistent way of being very good some weeks and very terrible in others. Chris Olave, very, very good at football. You should be playing him over Cordero Patterson, you idiot. I'm saying to myself, because I lost by 2.5 points because Cordero Patterson didn't get a touchdown with 18 points.
At least you didn't bench Amari Cooper.
Yeah, I know. The Saints 4-7, still technically alive in that sorry NFC South, but it would take a little bit of a miracle for the Bucs to fall off and the Falcons to fall off that badly. Alvin Kamara, not a great day for fantasy, and Darrell Henderson waived after this game. Yesterday was waived from the Los Angeles Rams. And they said when he only got 2 carries, he just felt something in his knee. Yeah, it was he had to go pack his crap and get out of town. Cam Akers, lead back. So maybe all that drama is behind them and they're going to be good to go.
So who would have thought with this game that Andy Dalton would be the better of the both quarterbacks today? And biggest fantasy plug-in disappointment, Ben Scarlett, as The Rock would say, you only had 2 or 3 fantasy points, so it doesn't matter what your last name is, because he absolutely was a humongous disappointment. As what happened to the reigning Super Bowl champions? They've lost their quarterback. They can't seem to find a running back, and the Rams just continue to sink down and lose to more teams.
Yeah, Rams are done. They're not as good as either of the next 2 teams we're going to talk about in the NFC. That is the Giants and the Lions. That's a statement. If you'd have said that in August, you'd have been looked at and laughed at for. The Lions win 31-18. The Lions have won 3 in a row and are quietly second place in the NFC North. Not that it says much because the Vikings are still 4 full games ahead of them with only 7 to go. So the Vikings pretty much still have that division. We'll get to their debacle here in a minute.
Yeah.
The Giants, though, looked very, very bad in this game. Saquon Barkley, not a great day. Matt Breida did have a touchdown, which is not what you want. They lose Wan'Dale Robinson for the season for a torn ACL, so not a good situation there. But the Lions, 3 straight wins. They host the Bills on Thanksgiving. That would be a statement win to get it if you can. I don't know if they can, but we'll see.
Yeah, that's definitely it. So you're telling me there's a chances? I think I saw somebody say that if there's any other team that they were playing, they might have a guaranteed lock of getting their 4th straight win. But against the Bills, that's a tough mountain to climb. As of course, you have to wonder if Danny Dimes is now Danny Nichols after this game. Because nice to see Swift being back, getting into the end zone. Geoff actually looking like Geoff of old, amazingly enough. And the other question you have to ask is, what's up with the Giants D?
The Giants D was really disappointing. Jamal Williams, 3 touchdowns in this game for the Lions. You said DeAndre Swift had a good day. He was definitely number 2 back there to Jamal Williams there. All right, we move on to we got to talk about the Raiders and the Broncos. Both teams now 3-7 after an overtime win by the Las Vegas Raiders over the Broncos, 22-16. Davante Adams, the overtime touchdown, another great fantasy football week for Davante Adams. Josh Jacobs was very good in this one as well. For the Broncos, Melvin Gordon was cut after this game. It's a tough week to be a running back in the NFL. Too many fumbles in the red zone and the goal line situation. Chase Edmonds on IR with a high ankle sprain. So it's now Latavius Murray and Mike Boone for the Broncos.
I have no idea who that is.
Yeah, of course, Javonte Williams out already with the torn ACL, the knee injury, the significant one. So the Broncos 3-7, they are done. They are absolutely done. They have no shot of making the playoffs, but they are now fourth place in the division because of the sweep at the hands of the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah, definitely heartbreak in fantasy as Kendall Hinton started off the game with a bang. He nearly had a touchdown with his first catch of the game, but it was later determined that he stepped out of bounds at the half-yard line. So you can imagine anyone who was starting him were like, yes, celebrating, and then all of a sudden just absolutely devastated when they saw the review going, yeah, no. And the other thing from this game is when you have a head coach just absolutely jinx himself before the game, when you have a quote that's out there going, well, somebody has to win the game, and you're going, okay, if you're a head coach, how come you don't go, well, the Raiders are really beatable. If somebody has to win this game, I think our Broncos can get it done. It's just sort of once again, another questionable decision by Nathaniel Hackett as you're just wondering how much longer is his tenure with the Broncos going to endure?
Yeah, him and Josh McDaniels, both candidates for a one and done, along with Lovie Smith in Houston.
But what about the fact you have Mark Davis saying Josh McDaniels is coming back next year?
Yeah, well, he's an idiot. So he'll probably bring him back, but it's not the right decision. We will continue this this next game's review and recap in its entirety. We will not cut away about 3/4 of the way through. Cowboys 40-3 win over the Minnesota Vikings. A game so lopsided, CBS decided to go, you know what? Let's go watch Bengals and Steelers for a little bit. Tony Pollard, I can't stand you as a person. He is also part of that loss over there this week. 2 receiving touchdowns, 109 receiving yards to go along with 80 yards on the ground. You might think, wow, Zeke Elliott must not have played. No, Zeke Elliott played. He had 2 touchdowns himself. Both running backs were incredibly valuable for fantasy. Dak Prescott had a good game. None of the pass catchers were exceptional, but when you have 4 touchdowns on the ground and you're benched in the fourth quarter because the game's at hand, can't do much about it. For the Vikings, that win to the Bills looks like a long time ago, and it's only been 9 days.
In a galaxy far away?
Yeah, pretty much, because we went from, wow, the Vikings are for real. They might be the best team in the NFC. They could be going to the Super Bowl to
Narf.
The Vikings might suck and be a fraud. I know there's a lot of people talking about Philadelphia and their schedule and what they've actually accomplished, and they're looking at the Vikings the same way. Well, you beat the Bills. I know before it was, well, you beat a bunch of bad teams. You beat the Dolphins without Tua, which is not an accomplishment, and you struggled to do that. Now you get shellacked to one of the best teams you've played. Cowboys 7-3, 2 games back in the division. Probably a big game against the Giants, I would say, on Thanksgiving. Both teams 7-3. So control of that number 5 seed at stake in that game. The Vikings do fall to 8-2, but as mentioned earlier with the Lions, they are 4 games up on the Lions at 8-2 versus 4-6 for the Lions. They're going to win the division. Now it's a matter of seeding from here on out. And the Vikings, both these teams will be playing on Thanksgiving Day. The Vikings will play the Patriots in prime time. So prime time Kirk Cousins alert. Prime time Kirk Cousins alert. Bench your Vikings that are not named Justin Jefferson and Dalvin Cook. He can't do it. He just can't do it. Justin Jefferson will be fine. He had one of his worst games, but everybody had one of their worst games this week. And anyways, move on.
Yeah, as I had, instead of Cowboys and Vikings, I have Dim Boys, and then I have Dim Real Sad right now. The Zeke and TP show was on. As you definitely said, the 4 p.m. Kirk Cousins definitely less than the 1 p.m. Kirk Cousins. And my other thing I had was WTF Vikings.
Yeah, the Vikings looked real bad. But, again, they control their own destiny for the playoffs and seeding. So
playoffs?
They'll make it. They will probably have the division wrapped up in the next couple of weeks because they're in the division with the Lions. In fact, mathematically, I think week 13 zeros, they can do it.
Do you think one more thing about this game? Do you think TJ probably wishes he was back on the Lions maybe after this game?
I mean, the Lions are 3-0 without him. Maybe he was the problem. I don't know. Anyways, move on to the game we got to watch the last quarter and a half of because how bad the Cowboys Vikings game was. Bengals 37, Steelers 30, a surprisingly good game. Najee Harris, one of his best games of the season. Joe Mixon does leave this with a concussion, but have no fear. Samaje Perine is here with 3 receiving touchdowns, ruining fantasy days all around because if you have Joe Mixon and I mean, he was fine before he got hurt, 9.5 points or so, but Perine was over 30. Deontay Johnson, he's just kind of fallen off. That whole Pittsburgh Steelers offense not super great. Freiermuth at least is an option. T. Higgins was very good. Jamar Chase back limited to practice, so he could be coming back this week. If not this week, probably next.
Yeah, the whole story definitely was Najee Harris had more TDs last week than he's had all season after only seeing 8 carries in week 9 and rumblings of Warren, of course, taking over as RB1. Harris turned a corner. He has seen 20 carries in back-to-back games and is 5th in rushing over the past 2. So nice to see that he's back and definitely hope that Joe Mixon is okay.
Yeah. We'll see how that concussion goes. He is still in the protocol. Status for Sunday is up in the air. We shall see. All right, next up, we go to the nightcap, possibly the best game of the day. Chiefs 30, Chargers 27. Travis Kelce, 3 touchdowns, including the game winner in the last few seconds of this game. Mike Williams came back, immediately got hurt, played about 6 snaps total. Josh Palmer, very good in relief. That was a very helpful thing for the Chargers because if it wouldn't have been for Josh Palmer, this offense might not have went. Keenan Allen did come back, had a good game, as well as Austin Eckler. For the Chiefs, though, looked a little bit lost without Juju and Mecole Hardman. They did get by with Sky Moore and Justin Watson, but it was Travis Kelce. Injury to Clyde Edwards-Helaire because he was already pretty much irrelevant at this point. Sprained ankle on IR, out for at least 4 weeks. Isaiah Pacheco is the pickup if he's available. But the Chiefs, 8-2, first place in the AFC, and 3 games up plus the head-to-head sweep of the Chargers. So that division looks to be Kansas City's to lose at this point.
Yeah, the one thing I take away from this game is okay, wide receiver injuries. It doesn't matter who you plug in there. Pat Mahomes just does Pat Mahomes things and gets the win.
Yeah, Pat Mahomes is he's next level. All right, then we go to Mexico for the Niners dismantling of the Arizona Cardinals.
Of course,
George Kittle.
You do have to bring up the coach who was actually fired before the game even begun because, of course, Saturday night he apparently groped a woman and so he's gone and he's now unemployed.
Yeah. Fun fact, groping women in a separate country not known as the United States is still a crime. Even if you are an American who doesn't maybe think that way. Second assistant coach to get in trouble this week.
The Tennessee Titans offensive coordinator. Coordinator was apparently somehow ended up having alcohol, celebrating, and got caught for a DUI on his way home. So, not
bad week
ideal
for assistant coaches.
Oof.
Good week for George Kittle. Good week for Brandon Ayuk. Good week for Deebo Samuel. Christian McCaffrey was all right too. Jimmy Garoppolo, one of the best games of the season. Colt McCoy was beat the hell up in this game. DeAndre Hopkins, though, looks every bit of DeAndre Hopkins. And that's pretty much it for this game. 49ers 6-4, tied for first in their division with Seattle. The Cardinals fall to 4-7. And Kyler Murray has a lot more time in the offseason to play some Call of Duty, it looks like, coming.
Ouch. Are you ready for 2 fun facts? Kadarius Toney, 0, outscored Rondale Moore, minus 0.6 in week 11. And if you started them anywhere, as because you had all the Rondale Moore hype. Rondale Moore, he's the guy we gotta start this week. Then you of course had Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, both top 10 wide receivers. They have a high upside on a weekly basis, as the TD scorer Brandon Ayuk had 11 targets in the red zone with 8 receptions and 5 TDs with recently. So, oof, it still didn't help me win a league. And because I was thinking, ooh, maybe this will help me come back. Nope, still down by like 15, 20 points. So, wah.
Yeah, I'm not a proponent of benching players when you have a small lead in fantasy, but Roundell Moore showed why that strategy exists with his negative 0.6. He did lose people weeks when they were winning going into Monday Night Football. All right, so that is the recap of week number 11. Let's see what we've got that we didn't already cover. Mike Williams, we did mention, left the game with the ankle injury. You'll see him at practice in a limited fashion. We'll see how he goes. Going into next week's game, Kyler Murray said he expected to start Sunday, so I think that he's going to start next week, but Cliff Kingsbury likes to hold people out. Speaking of Cliff Kingsbury, he said Hollywood Brown, if he plays, would be on a pitch count Sunday. The Cardinals do have their bye in week 13, so wouldn't be surprised if he does not play.
And did you see the news about Justin Fields? That new update suggests an AC joint shoulder sprain, not dislocation. So TLDR means average 1 to 2 weeks. Maybe if they'd be surprised if the Bears started. I think that's Trevor Simeon. So,
Bears Justin Fields. It's a separated shoulder with a partially torn ligament, basically an AC joint. So timeline to be determined, but we'll see.
Better news than expected.
Yeah, it's not season ending at the very least. Rondell Moore out at least a week with a groin injury. They've, again, bye week in week 13, so expect some of these guys to sit out one more week. Gus Edwards' hamstring did return to practice after missing the game. No Lamar Jackson.
Kyle Pitts, they had optimism for no ligament tear, so did they ever find anything out from the x-rays?
Kyle Pitts? Was that torn MCL? He will be on IR. He will be out for the season, but should be ready to go for the 2023 season. Very good chance he never catches another pass from Marcus Mariota in his life. Russell Gage did not practice, but has made some progress. He hopefully will be back soon. Devontae Foreman was out with a rest day for the Sam Darnold-led Carolina Panthers. Leonard Fournette is very sore. If he improves and can run full speed, he will run. If not, it will obviously not be him. It'll be Rachaad White. Buck's going to go with the hot hand approach at running back. So this could be the end of Leonard Fournette. Ronald Jones, former Buck, has a good chance of playing Sunday for the Chiefs against the Rams. Of course, they did lose Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who was on IR with the high ankle sprain. Bryce Perkins, the Rams are expected to give quarterback Bryce Perkins first team reps this week. Stafford likely out again with a concussion. So it'll be Bryce Perkins, not the Wolford. Kyle Allen to start for the Texans. Justin Fields is not a candidate for the IR, so that's good to know. They do not know if he's going to play yet, it sounds like. Joe Burrow says the Bengals expect Jamar Chase to play against the Titans. Has not fully returned to practice, but that would be a big add for the Bengals. Joe Flacco will be the backup to Mike White. That's 3 underwhelming quarterback names for the Jets. You got to think they're going to be looking in the draft at some point, but this might hurt them because they're not going to have a good draft pick. Zach Wilson will be inactive, and he needs a reset. The intent is to get him back on the field this year, which I think is just a horrible mistake. Carson Wentz has been designated to return from the IR. We'll see if that gets him back in the lineup. It's not going to immediately. Taylor Heineke's played too well to lose the job on that. And I think that is the big ones. Melvin Gordon officially a free agent.
You saw the Photoshop picture where somebody took out, I think, OJ, and they put Melvin Gordon into the Bronco.
Yeah. Keep going. Anyways, so that's the coverage. That's the news. That's the injuries. And because it's Thanksgiving, and we're going to give you more today, it's time for picks for week number 12. 16 games because the NFL does not believe in giving teams off the week of Thanksgiving because they need a full slate of games on Sunday. I don't know why this one game is highlighted a different color, so we're going to change that real quick because nobody cares about Las Vegas and Seattle, even if you're in those local markets, most likely. And we'll start with Thursday's first game. Buffalo going to Detroit. This will be on CBS as it always is. This is what wakes you up after that garbage parade in the morning, and we'll talk more about that in my final thought. Buffalo, second straight game in Detroit. This time will be in the visitors' locker room. You are going to play all of your Buffalo Bills weapons. Dawson Knox, Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, Devin Singletary, Josh Allen. Play them all for the Lions. DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams, probably both in contention, as well as Amon-Ra St. Brown. This could be a very high-scoring game. Buffalo's defense can give up points. They can get leaky at times. Detroit has a bad defense. So who do you got in this one?
Yeah, as it's very hard. I know that there's a lot of hype around Detroit. There's a lot of talk about that fourth game, but as I said in the recaps, if it were almost any other team, you would think, maybe they have a chance. They're really punching above their weight class this year, but even Buffalo, with as hurt as they are, still it's a pretty darn good team. They also have had a whole week to get acclimated to the field before playing the Browns and beating them quite handily. I think Detroit's going to be a little bit more of a challenge, but it's going to be one of the better surprise games of the day. As usually the first game kind of is underwhelming and just sort of like, okay, when can we get to the primetime games? Usually that's a better one, but I think we have a shot at maybe having three decent games, and it's going to be a closer one than we think. But I tend to think that Josh Allen gets her done, and they get out of Detroit with a dub.
Yeah, I think this is a get right game for Josh Allen. This is going to be a game where Buffalo puts up 40 and probably wins like 41-28 or something like that. Closer than you expect, but at least high scoring and entertaining throughout. Next up, we're both on Buffalo for that one. Next up, New York Giants go to Dallas to play the Cowboys. Both teams 7-3. Both teams 2 games behind Philadelphia in the division. So this is a big one. Winner of this one will stay within at least 2 games, if not a little bit closer, depending on Philly's result later in the week. Dallas looked amazing against Minnesota Vikings last week. So for the Giants, you're going to play Saquon Barkley, but temper your expectations. This is a tough defense in a divisional matchup. For Dallas, I think you have to think Zeke and Pollard are must starts on all fronts. Keep an eye out after this game for Odell Beckham Jr. to make a decision. I believe it's going to be to the winner of this game, oddly enough.
Which team gets the rose, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb, at least in consideration. CeeDee Lamb's going to be in their lineup. And Dalton Schultz should have a good bounce back week as well. Big game for both sides. Who gets it done?
Yeah, as I know you have more faith in the Giants with the change in culture and Saquon Barkley just being his normal self. But when you have 2 tanks and 2 heavy tanks and the Dallas Cowboys as opposed to 1 tank, got to go with the team that has the more weapons, and that's the Cowboys. They're at home. I know it's possible to think for it could be let down, but it's just hard seeing that happen. They're still on an emotional high from absolutely smacking the Vikings around, and got to go with the Cowboys. The Giants are just looking human.
Cowboys have 7 defensive linemen with questionable game status because of illness, including Demarcus Lawrence, Dante Fowler, and Jonathan Hankins. So keep that in mind. That being said, would you rather have Daniel Jones or Dak Prescott? Would you rather have Sterling Shepard or CeeDee Lamb? How about Dalton Schultz or Tanner Hudson? Saquon Barkley or the combination of Zeke and Pollard? Every single one of those leans Dallas's favor. I think I'd rather have the offensive line of the Dallas Cowboys. Given the news I just wrote, maybe I'd rather have the defense of the Giants, but not significant enough. I'm going to take Dallas as well.
And if you remember last year, instead of the New York Giants, they should have been called the New York Hamstrings with some of the injuries.
Yeah, there were a lot of bad ones last year. All right, and then we go to the nightcap on Thanksgiving. It is the New England Patriots, fresh off their 10-point whooping, where they scored all of 10 points against the Jets. Going to Minnesota to play the Minnesota Vikings, who have 2 black eyes and a wedgie still over the head from last week's game against the Cowboys. Prime time, Kirk Cousins comes out to play.
Were they put in the toilet?
Yeah, the swirly happened, the wedgie happened. They got a spitball up the nose and in the ear, and it was just a bad day for Minnesota. But they get prime time Kirk Cousins against one of the better defenses in New England. New England 6-4, Minnesota 8-2. New England has a lot of reasons to need this game because Buffalo beats Detroit. Miami's got a winnable game against Houston. They could really fall out of this division pretty quickly with a couple of losses. For the Patriots, Ramondre Stevenson is the only must start, I think. You could go Damian Harris if you are desperate, but he is definitely the number 2 option on that team right now, it seems like. For the Vikings, you're going to play Justin Jefferson. You're going to play Dalvin Cook, and you probably are going to have to play TJ Hawkinson, but be careful with Kirk Cousins and Adam Thielen on this night. I know it's primetime Kirk Cousins, but the Patriots offense looked atrocious over the weekend. So this one's interesting. Who you got?
There are 2 main factors with this game. Number one, it's prime time. So you have the team that everyone expects to win, the Vikings. Usually it's the opposite that happens, the Patriots. Plus, the other thing that you mentioned, the obvious trend, prime time Kirk Cousins. So throw those 2 in the mix. I don't know how they're going to do it. Don't ask me how they're going to do it. As you said, their offense is atrocious, but I'm just picking the Patriots because of those 2 things. You have the reverse thing that usually happens with probabilities on primetime, especially on Thursday nights, and you have primetime Kirk Cousins. I think those 2 things work against the Vikings.
This one's tough because you do have primetime Kirk Cousins and all his woes, but I'm going to take Minnesota. I do think getting their teeth kicked in, getting the wedgie, getting the swirly, getting whatever torture device from middle school you can think of done to them, and then some by the Dallas Cowboys woke them up. I'm not surprised they had a letdown after that emotional Buffalo hard-fought come-from-behind win, and I think it showed. And getting their teeth kicked in is going to redo the focus. I do think they bounce back. I don't have a lot of confidence in the New England offense, and I think the Vikings will get it done late. Kind of like if you remember their Washington game a few weeks ago where they had to come back from behind late against a team they were clearly better than. I think that's what happens here, and Minnesota gets the job done. Not super confident in that. If it was a confidence pool, it'd be down around 1 or 2 or 3 or something like that. All right, now we move to the game of the week. The big battle between Denver and Carolina. Russell Wilson leads the Broncos to play Sam Darnold in the God. Can we just not do this game? Like this is I don't know if you play anybody in fantasy here. Cortland Sutton, maybe. Tavius Murray, maybe. Dante Foreman's probably a bad option. Like this is Denver's defense. That's it.
Is this when you wish you had like the option in Madden? Sim game.
Yeah, sim all. Just get me to who gets the loss in this one, Joel.
Oh yeah, this one is just a tough one. As you have 2 very horrid teams going into Carolina to face off against each other. You have Russell Wilson, who I saw a meme that he has more bathrooms in his house than he currently has touchdowns. So yeah, ouch. And of course, the Carolina Panthers, when you're starting Sam Darnold, that tells you pretty much everything you have to know, especially when the guy you traded for, Baker Mayfield, is, So
Bad.
that being said, you had a big letdown with some of the names that you're used to helping you out in fantasy, like Deonta Foreman last week. Just all of a sudden, you just had that one game against the Bucks when they just absolutely exploded. They've had a couple of decent games here and there, but I know it's a crazy pick, but just with how bad the quarterback situation is, I know when you're saying the better quarterback is Russell Wilson. Yeah, I know, dear God, but he's the better quarterback on the field in this game that is going to be an absolute freaking dumpster fire. Lord help me, I'm going with the Broncos.
I'm going to start here. Take the under. If
Way,
the under is more than 15,
way
take the under. Yeah, they're going to have this over under probably in the 30s. Joel, if you can look that up for me, take the under.
Can you do a negative under?
Yeah, I would be surprised if this game got into the 20s. This is going to be similar to the game last week with the Jets and the Patriots. I've seen more signs of life from Carolina the last few weeks than I have Denver, so I'm going to take Carolina on just momentum alone. I think Carolina's trying to win, and they're trying to find out if what they have at quarterback is even remotely usable for the future. Fun fact, it's not. But I think Carolina gets it done in probably a 10-6 type of game.
You're not
Very,
kidding.
very gross game.
You're not kidding about way under, over, under. I'm seeing 36 for this game.
Yeah, take the under. Take the under because it's going to be the under.
And
Because it's just that bad.
And once again, your secondary nickname, Contrarian Ryan, emerges.
Well, this is one of those where, yeah, it's contrarian and all of that, but it's
But
also
honest,
two god awful teams. And that's
both
just
of them.
how,
Both
yeah, how
of
do you
them
have
sucked.
confidence in either one of them? I frankly, this is one of those where somebody's got to win, and it's not
Hey.
going to be Denver again.
That seems like a familiar quote.
Yeah, it's not going to be a fun game. People in the Denver and Carolina markets that have to watch this game, I sincerely apologize from the NFL because that's just not right that you have to watch that. Next up, Tampa Bay at Cleveland.
A little bit better game.
Cleveland's last game with Jacoby Brissett
before the return of a certain quarterback to the fold.
Yes. Yeah, the insert sexual predator insult here is on the way back next week. But for Tampa, I think Rachaad White is at least flex worthy. Leonard Fournette probably in that conversation. But again,
how many signs will be confiscated by Browns stadium personnel going out? Yeah, that one's
I don't think the Browns stadium's going to do it. I don't think the Browns fans are going to have the signs. Remember, next week they're in Houston.
Oh, yeah.
For his first game back. I want to go to that game so bad. I just want to go and sit. I don't even want to watch the game. I want to see the pregame. I want to watch him come on the field. I want to hear and feel the hate and vitriol from the Houston Texans fans. I want to hear that live. Like, that needs to be a YouTube video I find later because it's going to have to happen. But anyways, Tampa Bay, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin going to be in your starting lineup. Rachaad White, keep an eye on that Leonard Fournette situation. If Fournette misses, Rachaad White is a must-play. Cleveland.
Do you have any faith in either Chubb or Hunt?
You're going to play Nick Chubb. But that's about all I can say is you're going to play Nick Chubb. This does not map out to be a good matchup for the running backs, though.
Well, what kind of a day do you think Amari Cooper has? Considering he had his super day, this week, and when he's going up against the Bucs defense.
Amari Cooper's been very good at home. The Bucs defense weakness is in the secondary, still banged up, still dealing with injuries. So Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones, and David Njoku, at least in consideration, if not guaranteed to be in your starting lineup, like Amari Cooper should be, Joel. Should be. He should be in your lineup. He was one I was wrong on the offseason because I wanted to avoid him like the plague. He's been good at home, not good on the road, but he's been overall net positive for that one. So Tampa Bay, 5-5, leading the NFC South. They will be leading the NFC South even if they lose this game. No, they won't because Atlanta could win. But they will still be in contention no matter what the result of this game. Cleveland, again, last game without Jacoby Brissett. Maybe they want to win one for the guy who's led them for the last 3 months. But I think their season's about over. Who gets it done?
I tend to think Bucs are riding high after getting things right in Munich, where just somehow finding whatever chemistry and whatever thing that they seem to have lost, and they found it.
A running game.
Yep, that running. Rachaad White definitely gives the Bucs more dimensions to work with, and yeah, I just tend to think. I know that the Cleveland Browns have been scary in the past, but I think the Bucs are going to be like the person who managed to somehow break into the Cleveland Browns stadium and actually drive on the field. I think that's what they're going to do to the Browns. I know the Browns can put up a fight, but Bucs are starting to look more competent, and I think they get over 500 here.
I could definitely see Tampa Bay running away with this one, but the Cleveland defense, they've been good against quarterbacks. Again, we talked about it last week where Tua had like a 90.1 passer rating. It was far and away the best a quarterback had. Josh Allen had one of his worst fantasy performances last week. This defense will shut down Tom Brady a little bit. So it's going to come down to that passing game being efficient and the running game getting going. That being said, I'm taking Tampa Bay as well. I just think they're the overall better team. Cleveland has nothing to play for, and they are going to have a very, very hard week in front of them after this game. So there could be the circus coming to town, interfering with their focus later in this week. So I'm going to take Tampa Bay in this one. We move on.
Yeah, Tampa is favored by 3.5, and over and under is 42.5.
It's a good line. I think Cleveland keeps it close, though. Baltimore at Jacksonville is the next one. Baltimore did not look good against Carolina in the win, but they should have better conditions in Jacksonville. Lamar Jackson didn't practice today, dealing with a little thing, but he will be playing over the weekend. Keep an eye on the injury condition of Gus Edwards. If he plays, he's probably going to be limited, so Kenyon Drake is serviceable. If he doesn't play, you want to play Kenyon Drake this week. Demarcus Robinson, I think you have to consider, as well as Mark Andrews is going to be in your lineup for Jacksonville. Travis Etienne and Christian Kirk and possibly Evan Ingram are your options there. Don't have a lot of confidence in Trevor Lawrence this week. Baltimore, first place in the division. Cincinnati, hard charging behind them. Cincinnati is a tough matchup. We'll get to it in a little bit. So a win here for Baltimore could put some cushion in their standings. Jacksonville just trying to avoid the sell and maybe catch up to Indianapolis, who gets done.
Yes, the blind here -4 for Baltimore, and seeing 43.5 and 44 is the over under. As yeah, it's just hard to have a lot of faith in Jacksonville, especially Travis Etienne having a definite down week last week. Really just underperforming in fantasy as you're just checking, you're rubbing your hands like the meme of the guy behind the tree, and then you're kind of going with the surprise Pikachu face when you're looking at what actually happened. So, oof. But that being said, it's just hard picking Jacksonville over Baltimore as a whether it's a low scoring game, Baltimore got it done, and if it's a shootout, they can get it done too. So I'm definitely picking Baltimore.
Yeah, Baltimore's too good of a team. They will get the job done here this week. Lamar Jackson should have a little bit of a get right situation here. And Jacksonville continues to struggle against better teams. All right, next up, Houston at Miami. Oh boy, for Houston, Dameon Pierce, it might be a start. Brandon Cooks had a decent week last week, so maybe he's getting back into consideration. But for the Dolphins, you're going to play Tua. You're going to play Waddle and Hill. Keep your expectations low. Part of the way you beat Houston is by running the ball. They can get up early and really abandon the pass quickly. So with that in mind, Jeff Wilson and Raheem Mostert are must starts, and then all the pass catchers are options for Miami. Miami 7-3, second place in the AFC, first place in the AFC East. Buffalo will possibly be ahead of them at the start of this game due to the fact they played on Thursday. Houston is 1-8-1. Really no hope for them this season. And again, big game next week for them being the Browns and Deshaun Watson coming to town. So who gets the win here?
Yes, it definitely should be a high scoring affair. 47 is the total, and Miami is actually favored by 13.5. So, yeah, it's just I know Houston tends to really put up a fight because they have a lot of times where it's halftime and they're tied, but then just something happens with that second half. And we saw what Miami did last week, just absolutely running wild, doing anything they wanted to do. So and especially with Houston's atrocious record this year, it's hard to have any faith in Houston. This would definitely be the upset of the day, as all of a sudden Miami looks too legit to quit, if I can use the title of an old MC Hammer song, and gotta go with your fish.
Yeah, the Dolphins have been looking offensively unstoppable for several weeks, and then they have the bye week to prepare for a bad Houston team. This does not bode well for Houston. I'm going to take the Dolphins as well. I expect the Dolphins to cover. I don't think this is going to be a very close game. All right, next up, Chicago at the New York Jets. Zach Wilson will not be playing for the Jets. That probably increases their odds of winning.
There's a shock.
We'll wait to see about Justin Fields. It sounds like they're going to hopefully have him, but only time will tell. For the Bears, you're going to play David Montgomery and no Khalil Herbert for a few more weeks. And then you got, honestly, the pass catchers, the Cole Kmet, your Darnell Mooney. That's going to be dependent on Justin Fields playing. If it's not Justin Fields, I don't think you play them. I think you only go Montgomery. If they play, they're in consideration. For the Jets, man, I don't know what you do with any of the players. I think Michael Carter is probably the best option here. You don't know how the pass catcher is going to react to Mike White. So I would say tread lightly around the Jets pass catchers. Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, and Corey Davis supposed to be back this week, but I would probably just move away from those options if you can. You might be in a 16 teamer and have to play Garrett Wilson like some people do. But if you do, you do. That being said, this one, I don't think this is one anybody's looking forward to, even though the Jets, in theory, have a shot to take first place in the division this week.
Yeah, as this one, I know it's going to be tough road for the Bears with their backup. But that being said, I know it's kind of a surprise to lean the way of the Jets, but they made a change at quarterback due to ineffectuality. You have the Bears made a change in quarterback because of injury. So I think if the Jets offense can just find a little bit of something, because we saw how the Detroit Lions actually end up getting right by the Chicago Bears by a point. So if that can happen, in the Detroit Lions when they started weren't exactly the greatest team on earth, but now all of a sudden they have morphed into this team that has the potential to get a fourth win in a row. But I seriously doubt that's going to happen this week. But we'll see. That being said, crazier things have happened. Bears have definitely looked mortal. They have looked human. They only have, not exactly what you would call a lot of wins. I tend to think the change in quarterback for the Jets, because of performance, tends to get them back in the right direction. Just somehow, I don't know how exactly the Jets managed to get the win, but I think the Bears were sent reeling with the Justin Fields injury. Even though it doesn't sound serious, it really is going to affect their offense big time. And for that reason alone, I'm holding my nose, not having a lot of confidence, but I'm picking the Jets because stranger crap has happened in the NFL this year.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Jets as well, mostly because I think Justin Fields is either going to miss this game, or if he plays, he's going to be very limited in what he can do. You saw him struggle with the hamstring issues last week with the cramping and the stress. I don't see that getting better. I agree. I think the move to Mike White maybe gets this offense going, which is not what you want to hear if you're Zach Wilson. But the Jets are one of these weird teams where they could show up any week and be solid, or they could just be a dumpster fire. This might be one of the few weeks they can show up and be a dumpster fire and still compete. So I'm going to take the Jets here.
Well,
All right, now we move on to, I'm going to say, the game of the day, if not the week in general. Cincinnati at Tennessee. We did mention Jamar Chase is expected to be back, at least by Joe Burrow this weekend. That means Cincinnati. We'll see about Joe Mixon, but wide receiver wise, looks like they'll be back to full strength. If Mixon can go, this is an offense that's at full capacity. For the Titans, they're getting healthy. Derrick Henry looks very good. Robert Woods has been good. Treylon Burks had his best game as a pro last week. So offensively, these teams might be 100% healthy. We'll have to see on Mixon. For the Bengals, you're going to play Jamar Chase if he plays. You're going to play T. Higgins. You're going to play Joe Burrow. And if Joe Mixon does play, you're going to play him. If he doesn't play, maybe Samaje Perine. It could be a trap because Tennessee is very good against the run. For the Titans, you're going to be playing Derrick Henry. Don't ever bench Derrick Henry. That is just not a smart thing to do. So Derrick Henry's going to be in your lineup. And then if you really need a deep dive option at tight end, Austin Hooper is available. And Treylon Burks, maybe he is something that you're going to want to play. They did trade away A.J. Brown in the draft to go and draft this guy. So eventually you got to think they're going to try and use him in that capacity now that he's healthy. Tennessee 7-3. They're battling for seeding in the top four. They're going to win their division. Cincinnati is battling to try and win their division. And if they lose this game, they might not be a playoff team going through week number 12. So big game for both sides. Who gets this done?
As you have to wonder how strong is that curse. The team that gets to the Super Bowl and doesn't win is jinxed. As you have Tennessee Titans, their main tank is okay. King Henry is in full effect. And Cincinnati Bengals kind of wondering, are they going to be using the backup tank and Pirine, or is Mixon going to be okay enough to get in there? And that alone, and I know there's a possibility Jamar Chase plays, that can definitely tip the whole thing in the scale of the favors of the Bengals. But as things stand right now, I definitely have to pick the Titans, just because they seem to, as far as offensive weaponry goes, be just a little bit more healthy than the Cincinnati Bengals. If it was a lesser team, I might be tempted to take the Bengals, but the Titans have proven to be surprisingly competent this year, especially when you go to Green Bay and you beat the Packers at Lambeau.
Yeah, Tennessee is the Rodney Dangerfield of the NFL, getting no respect. Titans are going to win this game. Derrick Henry's going to have his way with the Cincinnati Bengals defense. He's going to slow that game down. He's going to keep the Cincinnati offense off the field, get them out of rhythm, and the Titans are going to win the game. There is enough question around Joe Mixon and Jamar Chase where it's just hard to predict and be confident in the Bengals. And obviously, doing this on Wednesday, we might come in on Friday and be like, oh, those two guys are going to play, and it's a different equation. But I think Tennessee gets the job done either way. It's just a closer game if those two guys go.
Yeah, very close game. You have a 1.5 spread for Cincinnati favorites somehow, and 42.5 for the over and under.
Yeah, Cincinnati a road favorite again. No respect. The Rodney Dangerfield of the NFL, the Tennessee Titans. They're only 7-3 and almost beat the Chiefs with Malik Willis. So, yeah, no, they're just. I don't understand the Titans hate. Anyways, we move on. Atlanta at Washington. The Falcons 5-6, coming off the win against the Bears. Could be 500 after this week. Facing these suddenly surging 6-5 Washington Turds, the Commanders, the Durs, whatever you want to call them. Tyler Heineke's been very good. This could be a good spot start for him against Atlanta. Terry McLaurin has resurged to prominence with Taylor Heineke in the backfield. Logan Thomas is a question at tight end you could play if you really need somebody. And then Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson are options in the backfield because Atlanta's defense is very, very bad against the run. For Atlanta, oh, man. I guess you could play some of these guys. I don't know why you'd want to. Marcus Mariota is a streaming option. Drake London could be played. Cordero Patterson will let you down unless you get scoring points for the return touchdowns. Congratulations on the NFL record, though, by the way. 9 in a career is pretty dang impressive. But I think there's a decent possibility with this game. You're not playing anybody from Atlanta. So let's go straight to the pick. Who you got?
Yes, you have Washington, amazingly enough, is the home favorite, 3, 4.5 in some places, with a total of 41.5 or 41, basically, for the over and under. And yeah, what you said is the main thing, because I know it's hard going, okay, the Commanders, they're good. When did this happen? But it's true. Atlanta's defense is pretty much thinner than paper when you look at it. So, yeah, Taylor Heineke is competent enough to get her done, and somehow I think the Commanders get her done at home and give Atlanta a little bit of a disappointment.
Yeah, I'm going to take Washington as well. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game than we're going to want to really watch and play for fantasy. So tread lightly in this one. But I think Washington is frankly just the better team. Washington has legitimate playoff aspirations. I think there's still some doubt that Seattle can keep the ball rolling how they have. They're only a half game behind Seattle and San Francisco. So whoever falls out of that and comes in second in the NFC West, they're at risk for missing the playoffs because you have the Cowboys and the Giants both at 7-3. They're both well established right now in the playoff picture. Then you have Washington lurking slightly behind. Atlanta with a win, 6-6. Washington will be 6-6, both in contention. But I think Washington gets it done and goes to 7-5. Something that very impressive for the NFC East to be all at 7-5 or better after this week. Washington's week 14 bye is why they have so many games played. All right, we move on to Los Angeles Chargers going to Arizona to play the Cardinals. Kyler Murray says he expected to start Sunday. They do expect him to start this week against the Chargers. You're going to play Kyler Murray. You're going to play DeAndre Hopkins. You're going to play James Conner for the Cardinals. I would be skeptical to play Hollywood Brown if he goes. If not, he's going to get the bye week. I think they activate him, do not play him very much, and he goes full go in week 14. So tread lightly there. Greg Dortch with a slight issue could play. He could be interesting, and then Rondale Moore probably out. So maybe Greg Dortch gets you done. I don't know. For the Chargers, you're going to play Justin Herbert. You're going to play Austin Eckler. You're going to play Keenan Allen. Mike Williams is a risk coming back from that injury. If he plays, Joshua Palmer was very good last week. So keep an eye on the news because if Williams plays, it devalues Palmer. If he doesn't play, Palmer's value goes through the roof. Chargers 5-5, Arizona 4-7. Both of these teams have no shot of winning their division at this point. It looks like they're going to be trying for wild card slots, and even then, it's an uphill battle for both. Who gets this win?
As you just had Arizona absolutely get their teeth kicked in by the 49ers in Mexico. This is a absolute prime spot for the Chargers to try to somehow get back in it to win it. I think they can just somehow find a way to win. If hopefully they get some of their wide receivers back, if Justin Herbert can get his mojo back going, because Arizona is just very, very mortal and very human. As all of a sudden, I know last year they got up to 7-0, and then off a cliff like Wile E. Coyote. They haven't even waited to get to 7-0 to fall off the cliff this year. And I think the Chargers sort of helped to push them off here. And the Chargers finally get a game that it's a late game, but at least it's not prime time. So they're probably going, thank God we don't have another brutal matchup in prime time. And I think they can get a little bit of their mojo back, and they can somehow manage to get by Arizona, who they just have a lot of enigmas and questions about them.
Yeah, Kansas City and San Francisco in primetime in the last 2 weeks. Arizona's a step back in competition. Pushing them off the cliff, KLIFF, I assume is what you mean for the Arizona Cardinals, because Cliff Kingsbury has to go. He's got to go. He's not a good coach. Was just extended recently, so maybe he doesn't go, but he's definitely on the hot seat, I would say, in Arizona, not just because Arizona's the desert and it's hot all the time, but the team hasn't looked good. The Chargers are going to win this game, I believe, fairly easily. They're going to look not quite as good as San Francisco, but with those weapons back, they should be on all cylinders. You saw how good they looked against the Chiefs in a rough way to lose that game. I think the Chargers get it done.
Yeah, they're -3 in a lot of places with a excuse me, with a total of 48 for the over and under.
Oh, they got a high scoring game here. All right, next up, Las Vegas and Seattle. For the Raiders, you're going to play Devontae Adams. You're going to play Josh Jacobs. You're going to play Foster Moreau. You might be wondering, why are you telling me to play Foster Moreau? Seattle is bad against tight ends. That also keeps in mind, if it's Trey McKitty or Gerald Everett in the Chargers game, keep an eye on who's starting at tight end for the Chargers, because that's an option against Arizona, because they're bad against tight end. So Foster Moreau, I think, is going to have a good week against Seattle this week. That being said, if you don't play him and you have better options, I understand. Adams, Jacobs in your lineup. For Seattle, you're going to play Kenneth Walker. You might be one of the best running backs in football at this point. And then DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett as well. Seattle, 6-4, tied for first. They're technically behind San Francisco on the tiebreaker, so they have to win games to keep up. Las Vegas 3-7. I think they just want to finish ahead of the Broncos if they can, maybe catch the Chargers, but their aspirations for the season are not high. So who gets the win?
Yeah, this one is just you have the Raiders riding high after their victory over the Broncos. But yeah, for this game we have a over and under basically 47.5, and Seattle, not surprisingly, is the home favorites at 3.5. As it's just hard picking the Raiders to upset the Seahawks, as the Seahawks have most of their weapons. Raiders, of course, recently have replaced Renfro and, of course, Waller on the list that you never like to see, especially if you're in fantasy. So yeah, I'm going all the way with the Seattle Seahawks. And the guy that once said that they wrote me off, I didn't write them back. So yeah, boom.
Yeah, Geno Smith is a streaming option for this game. Seattle's going to win, I think. I think this is going to be a very high-scoring game, though, so I think there's going to be a lot of fantasy goodness for anybody you play here. But Geno Smith, if you have an Aaron Rodgers or you have, I don't know, somebody, maybe you were somehow playing Zach Wilson or Davis Mills,
Baker Mayfield,
Justin Fields, maybe if he misses, I mean, he could be Geno could be a streaming option for any of those guys. That being said, we're both on Seattle, and we move on to the next game. Almost the Super Bowl rematch. LA Rams and the Kansas City Chiefs. Of course, Kansas City losing the NFC Championship game to the Bengals, and the Rams winning the Super Bowl. You probably would have expected this to not be a 14.5-point spread in favor of the home team, but that's what Kansas City is. They are favored by 14.5 points. And I have a feeling that's going to go up from here. For the Rams, Bryce Perkins is looking like the quarterback. So with that in mind, I don't think you play a single Rams player. Maybe Tyler Higbee because the tight end landscape is atrocious, but that would be about it. They're going to be blown out of this game. I'm taking Kansas City. So, I can't introduce this game without saying they're going to get destroyed because I'm going to tell you not to play anybody. So the Rams are going to get blown out. The running game's not going to be in effect, and then it's just going to be bad. Kansas City, Isaiah Pacheco is going to have a big second half if he plays the entire game. Travis Kelce's going to have a good week, and then at the wide receiver spot, take your pick. If Juju's back, he's going to be good. If not, you maybe just avoid the position, but Justin Watson could be good. Sky Moore could be good. MVS could be good. Obviously, you're going to play Pat Mahomes in this one as well. And the Kansas City defense, keep that one in mind. The Kansas City defense this week should be very good. So I'm taking Kansas City. Joel, do you agree?
I definitely agree. And with you have an over and under of 43, and most of that is probably going to be KC doing to the Rams similar what them boys did to the Vikings.
Yeah, it's going to be an ugly, ugly game. All right, then we go to the last game in the late window. It's New Orleans. It's at San Francisco. For the Saints, you're going to play Kamara. You're going to play Chris Olave, but this is a tough defense, so keep your expectations tempered. Juwan Johnson is an interesting name to keep in mind. He is the tight end 7 on the season. He's been very, very good. For the 49ers, you're going to play Ayuk. You're going to play McCaffrey. You're going to play Kittle. You're going to play Deebo Samuel. Yeah, I think this is going to be a very interesting game. These two teams tend to get together and play good ones. So who gets the win?
You got over under of 42.5 pretty much in most places. San Francisco favored by 9 or 9.5 in some places. So that pretty much tells you everything you know. Andy Dalton playing better ball of late. Alvin Kamara definitely missing a step or two when compared to himself from 2021. But that being said, especially with you saw with how San Francisco played in Mexico and absolutely demolished the freaking Cardinals, it's hard to not pick them again, and it's definitely hard to pick the Saints, especially on the road, having to go maybe not quite all the way over to the other coast, but definitely taking a trip. So, yeah, I'm going with the 49ers.
Jamar Chase officially limited practice. Joe Mixon did not practice today with the concussion, so no surprises there. I'm going to take San Francisco as well. I think San Francisco could actually be the best team in the NFC at this moment. No disrespect to the Eagles or the Vikings or the Cowboys or the Giants. I just think that San Francisco has the best defense in the conference, and they have a cachet of weapons nobody else in the NFC has. They rivaled. Honestly, you look at it, they're like Miami with the weaponry. They're very, very comparable. I think Miami's weapons at wide receiver are better, but they've got George Kittle in San Francisco. So I think San Francisco might be the best team in the NFC. I'm going to take them over the Saints. I think the Saints play tough, but they fall short against San Francisco this week. Then we go to the nightcap. It's Green Bay at Philadelphia. Green Bay has looked better in recent weeks. A tough loss to the Titans last week, a tough loss to the Bills the week before. No shame in losing to either one of those teams, but a 14-point come-from-behind victory against the Cowboys. We saw what the Cowboys did last week. So that, I think Green Bay is getting something figured out. That being said, Philadelphia 9-1 hasn't looked great, but has still gotten a win pretty much every week, all but one this year. For the Packers, it's tough to play Aaron Rodgers, but he's been better the last few weeks. This is a tough defense, but they're going to have to throw the ball to beat the Eagles and be efficient. Aaron Rodgers has the ability to do that. Christian Watson, 5 touchdowns in the last 2 games. He's at least a flex consideration, if not a lock for a wide receiver starting spot. Philadelphia is a good defense, though, so temper the expectations. But Aaron Jones should get a lot of work in this game. You can run on Philadelphia. Those are your starters for Green Bay. For Philadelphia, you can run on Green Bay. So Miles Sanders should have a lot of carries. That's if Philadelphia runs the ball and tries to control the game. They like to get cute at times and throw 3/4 of it, and it just doesn't always work. And you've seen that in the last couple of weeks when they've struggled. That being said, you're going to play Jalen Hurts, you're going to play A.J. Brown, and then Devonta Smith is a flex consideration on the back end. Philadelphia 9-1. Green Bay is 4-7. Both of these teams, I would say, going in opposite directions, but I'd say Green Bay is improving where Philadelphia is giving us some reason to doubt, which is kind of weird since they are 5 games ahead of Green Bay. But all that being said, who you got?
Yes, definitely. You're looking at both the teams and you're going, okay, Philadelphia did definitely show that they were human recently, but the team has definitely shown themselves to be more human of a whole season has definitely been the Green Bay Packers. This game, you're seeing pretty much 46 and a half over under, 6 and a half, mostly even 1-7 -7, and Philadelphia is the definite favorite. I tend to think that Philadelphia has more weapons, as we've seen. Definitely, Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon, definitely not what they once were. Aaron Rodgers doesn't seem to have anybody to throw to other than his most recent favorite target with Watson. So I just tend to think that Jalen Hurts has more options and more weapons, and also they're at home. But the Lambeau Field, you had Tennessee Titans go in there and beat the Packers at home, so that's saying something and a big, huge statement win. So that being said, I definitely have to pick the Eagles, and I think they get back on track.
I'm going to take the Packers. Um, Philadelphia has shown signs of cracking, and I think Green Bay, with getting Alan Lazard healthy, getting Randall Cobb back, getting Christian Watson properly back, finally healthy. Romeo Dubs is possibly coming off the injured list here soon as well. So you're starting to get healthy in Green Bay. I think they figured out they have to establish the run to be successful. Philadelphia has been susceptible to the run in the last few weeks. Philadelphia has not instilled a lot of confidence in me. And frankly, I think Aaron Rodgers shows up bigger in prime time in spotlight games. He's done it throughout his career, and this is a big opportunity for him to come out and say, I'm still MVP, two-time reigning MVP. I'm still the guy. I am still Aaron effing Rodgers. And I just have this sneaking suspicion that Green Bay is going to create doubt in Philadelphia on Monday morning. I think that's when we're going to start looking, is Philadelphia for real? They're going to give Philadelphia what Dallas gave Minnesota last week. I don't think it's going to be 40-3, but I think the wait a minute is going to come from this game. So I'm going to take Green Bay. And I'm probably wrong, but I'm going to do it. Anyways, we go to the Monday Night Football game, the last one of a 16-game full slate. Pittsburgh at Indianapolis, because we just wanted to have a good football game on Monday night. Jonathan Taylor, Najee Harris, you're going to be starting for sure. You're going to be playing Pat Fryermuth. You're going to probably be playing Michael Pittman and Paris Campbell for the Colts. I don't know how much confidence you have in Deontay Johnson or George Pickens. Probably going to come down to your league type, but that's about it. Indianapolis still has an outside shot at the playoffs. Pittsburgh still trying to just not be a losing team, but I don't think that's going to happen. So who gets the win?
Yeah, you're looking at 39 and a half, 39, and
Low scoring game.
pretty much -3 and -2.5. Pretty much across the board, -2.5. So, yeah, it's not exactly what you would call a barn burner for a Monday night football game. Is it definitely will be one you're sort of trying to stay awake if you're watching on TV. You might want to listen to the radio broadcast instead and do something else. But I think the main thing that you're talking about, the key factor will be, since it will be sort of a ground and pound type game, since you tend to have different quarterbacks sort of trying to figure things out. I think they're giving Matt Ryan back a chance again for Indy, and he's going to be leaning on the talents of one Jonathan Taylor, and Najee Harris is starting to come back into his own. But I think Jonathan Taylor is definitely the better weapon of the two, and for that factor alone, I've got to pick Indianapolis.
Yeah, I think Indianapolis is the correct team to pick here, so I'm going to go with them. Um, I don't have a good reason for it. Both these teams are very bad. I think the Colts just have a slightly better offensive line and a slightly better running game, and that's going to be a big deal in this one. But expect this one to be well to the under of that. What was it, 39 or so point over under? I don't expect it to be a high scoring game by any stretch of the imagination. All right, with that, that's going to be it for the pick segment, and we go to final thoughts. So Joel, we will start with yours.
As besides a definite bonus final thought of happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there. Stay safe if you're traveling anywhere. and just sort of enjoy the day, whether or not you're going to partake of the 3 football games. And as you tend to stuff yourself with copious amounts of food of whatever variety. Now, to my second final thought, which is my football final thought. How about this? Per at Josh Durbin, the Las Vegas Raiders have filed a trademark for Win City, indicating plans to use it as a team slogan. The Raiders currently are 3-7. They are projected to win just over 6 games this season per DraftKings Sportsbook. Yeah, Raiders, Win City. I could think of a couple other teams that might be a better fit for, and that's my final thought.
I get that it's a pun on Sin City. And I get you have to put trademarks in place well in advance, but come on, that's an off-season move at least.
I think Geno Smith actually trademarked his whole they wrote me off and I didn't write them back. He actually trademarked that.
Yeah, I don't blame him on that one. But Raiders, do that in April. Don't do that in November of a 3-7 campaign. You're not with me there.
Yeah.
My final
Well,
thought.
well,
My final thought is going to be World Cup ish related. And we're going to talk beer. Budweiser.
can I do a sports shuffle audible and
Oh,
ask
yeah.
an honest question?
Yeah.
What determines when you're dealing with a World Cup or soccer in general, when they add on extra time that all of a sudden you're thinking, okay, we're getting ready for the end of the match, but nope, there's extra time.
Yeah, it's when people fall down and pretend to be hurt, and when the ball goes out of bounds into the stands. It's called stoppage time because it's supposed to make up for all the stoppages in the half.
Okay.
Yeah, if you watched any of the end of the USA Wales game, which was a 1-1 tie, you saw people just fall down and stay down and then get up and run off. It was like, oh, so you're clearly faking it. Cool. Soccer is awesome. But we're not going to talk about the dumpster fire sport that is going on in the World Cup. We're going to talk about the dumpster fire politics that are going on around the World Cup, specifically with Budweiser. Sporting events. One of the things that goes on at all sporting events is the sale of beverages of the adult consumption variety, beer, and some mixed drinks and the like. Budweiser has had a long-standing partnership with the FIFA World Cup to sell beer at the World Cup. Qatar is a very Islamic, very traditional, small country in the Middle East. If you don't know where that is, buy a globe, buy a map, find it on your own. But it's well, let's see. Ironically enough, in an alcohol bottle. Qatar is right over here. Right over there. Very, very small on the other position. Yes, alcohol. All of that being said, it came out that in the last 4 days before the tournament started, they banned the sale of all alcohol in the stadiums of the World Cup, which is a problem for people like Budweiser, who had already paid the rights to be the exclusive sales partner for the beer and to bring all of the inventory to the region. Now, alcohol is not illegal in Qatar, but it's only legal in certain private places, and they're saying this is a public venue, so it is banned. Budweiser is suing for breach of contract, as they probably should, but the caveat and the reason this is going out there is they're giving all of the beer that they brought to Qatar, all the beer they intended to sell, they're going to give to the country of the winning team. So, much like Baker Mayfield in Cleveland winning the city of Cleveland some Bud Light out of refrigerators for getting their first win in over 500 days, some soccer player we probably don't know the name of is going to score the game-winning goal of the World Cup final and get their beer, their country, Budweiser beer for that. Also, big upset so far. Saudi Arabia beating Argentina, Japan beating Germany, two of the bigger ones so far. So, that being said, Darrell Henderson was claimed by the Jaguars. Darrell Henderson to the Jaguars. That could be a very interesting move. Matt Stafford is officially out because of a neck issue, and he is back in the concussion protocol for the second time in 2 weeks. All right. Well, that was an hour and a half of talking about football. And with that, we're done. Anything else to say?
Nope. Just stay safe and have a happy Turkey Day.
Oh, I promised to talk about the crappy parade. I know it's a Thanksgiving tradition, the Macy's Day Parade, but there's nothing that makes me more thankful for football than watching that dumpster fire parade to start the day. Joel, I don't know if you're a fan of the parade. If you are, I am apologetic for offending you, but can we get rid of that crap?
You are not offending me. I just remembered. You remember the one time I think I saw on YouTube where Rick Astley apparently actually came out on the parade and rickrolled everybody.
Yeah, no, it's a bunch of singers that most of us had never heard of. They do get their occasional big names. A bunch of singers you never heard of on crappy floats, lip syncing songs you don't like, crappy high school bands that march out of time in the cold, and a bunch of balloons that you could see the smaller versions of at your Dollar General, Dollar Tree, or any place fine balloons are sold, just in smaller versions. So, frankly, I don't need to see Grogu go down Main Street or Fifth Avenue or wherever it is. Pikachu can go. He can go shock somebody somewhere else. And frankly, I don't need to see Santa at the end of the parade to understand it's the holiday season. The commercials have been on for 4 weeks. I just hate the tradition. That and the damn dog show. Get rid of it. I want to see a 4-hour football pregame starting at 9 a.m. before the first game. Period. That's what I want. Maybe that's just me. Maybe the Thanksgiving Day tradition is so important, the parade, that people want to watch it. But frankly, I think it's the same. It's the equivalent of jamming needles in my eyes. And I hate it. I have to say it. I hate it. I've hated it since I was a child. So this is not cynicism of being an adult. Even though I was like 7 and it was like, look, a cartoon character from a show I like floating down the street. Who the hell cares? Yeah. Yeah. So,
Are you channeling a little, Family Guy? Oh my God, who
the hell cares? Yeah. Family Guy used to be in the damn parade too. Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't get it. I don't want to get it. But yeah. Anyways, the parade sucks. Bonus final thought. Happy Thanksgiving. I think that's a good place to leave it. I'm flying Ryan Gokers along with as always.
Tampa Motormouth, Joel Verlin.
And we'll be back on a normal schedule next week. No holiday. 2 shows instead of 1 hour and a half long show where we talk about beer and parades to end it. And with that, we go. No, go ahead. You got something?
And stupid slogans.
Oh yeah, stupid slogans. Our whole show could just be about stupid slogans. We'd be fine.